go. Oh.
Woo! It's deep. You got it just to the brim here perfectly. Jordan, welcome to Freezin for a Reason. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Good to be here.
Jordan, I've had the pleasure of knowing you for many years, seeing you grow, overcome a lot of challenges. So I'm excited to visit with you just a little bit here in the cold plunge.
That's good to be here.
For those of you that don't know, Jordan was actually patient zero. He was the first person to buy a Fjord, gave me some great feedback on it. He's been enjoying it. How's your experience been so far?
Use it every day. In fact, I've been able to use it with a lot of friends and family, but game changer, man. Water in general is a game changer for me, and I know for you. But the cold changes things. So when you get up in the morning and I click on the hot shower, go outside, jump in there for 3 minutes at 54 degrees. Sometimes I still like to drink coffee in the morning, but you don't need it. I mean, it resets you. You're ready to go for the day. And I'd probably say it gives me about 8 hours energy for the day just to jump in there, get laser focused, and then get out, take a shower, and have some really good thoughts in the morning when I do that.
And there's something about it, like we were talking about earlier off camera. You get in water and you've got no technology on you. You're away from distractions. You have to focus on breathing. It takes you to a place where you're really present. So what a great way to start the day, right?
Yeah, I love water. You know, water gives life. You get baptized in water.
Mm-hmm.
For me, growing up swimming as well, when you're in water, you're completely disconnected. So you take that to the ultimate highest level of getting into cold water, and you really have to focus and slow down your breathing and think about where you're at. You can't be thinking about all the distractions or the things you have to do just for that little 3 minutes of your day is awesome. I look forward to it. I dread it, right? Thinking that it's waiting for me out there, but at the same time, I'm always glad I did it,
Yeah.
just like anything. But sometimes that clock really ticks slow when you're in there.
Yeah, I can totally relate. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is that in many arenas of life, you're a high performer, both at work, leading people at your company, now leading your own company. You're a two-time author. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And just also just a stud athlete that I've seen you turn yourself around in 90 days to get to your fitness goals. And you're also a person that sets goals. As I read your most recent book, Stellar to Stellar, one of the things you do talk about is setting goals, being really clear on those, setting a foundation, making sure you have the right resources to execute those goals. So I want to jump right into your goal setting in terms of trying to get to Hawaii with the Xterra triathlon. What did it look like mentally and physically to prepare yourself for that? How did you go into it?
I'll start with what you said, the specific place and the specific event, which was the Xterra World Championships, which is 2 weeks after the Hawaii Ironman World Championships, and it's all off road. That is a specific event. So when you go back to goals and you talk about that, or you mention goals in life and being a top performer, if you ask people, and I would suggest you do, and I know you do, but if you ask them what do they want, a lot of people don't know. You know, they'll tell you they want more money, or they want to be fitter, or whatever, they want to be healthier, they want to have a better relationship. But specifically, you told me a very specific location, time, and event, which is the Xterra World Championships in Maui, Hawaii, on whatever date that is. So setting a goal, you have to know what you want first, and it's got to be specific. For me, I don't always know what it is or what is next, right? It kind of comes to you in an epiphany. But when I wanted to do the Xterra World Championships, I mean, it came to me in a moment. I remember where I was. I was having breakfast with a buddy in San Antonio, and I just decided I'm going to race in this World Championship event, which sounds ridiculous because I was the same weight I am now, right? A little husky, carrying some insulation here for the cold water. That was it. I said, I'm going to do it. And, you know, from there, once you know what you want, then people, especially in America, we say, well, how do you do it? And that's the wrong question. I would challenge people to ask the question of who can help you do it, right? Because most things in life, whether it's a relationship or getting healthy or making money, people have already done it. So don't reinvent the wheel. So the first thing I did was I went and got a coach, right? Who has done it? Who can prepare me? Who's the best? And that's when I got my first coach for not athletics. You have coaches in athletics growing up, but for this endurance sports and wanting to make this specifically, went and found a coach, and
Mm-hmm.
they got me there.
Break it down for us and tell us, what did it actually look like preparing for that? You know, what did the coach guide you through, and how did you make sure you pushed to hit that goal?
With that specific year, so that was 2017, and then I did it again in 2019. In 17, it was, what do you have to give up, right? So you sit down with the coach. They essentially say, you're doing something currently in life, and we all get 24 hours. This is kind of chilly, right?
Yeah.
We're not nervous to talk on camera. I'm just a little cold right now. 2017. So we all have 24 hours in a day, and you have to figure out how you're going to compartmentalize those, right? People say time management. I like to say time blocking. And when you time block, you essentially say, here's what I can do. You lay it out, and then you have to execute on it. That's it. It's that simple. So what did I have to give up? Well, I had to give up certain types of food. I had to give up certain types of drinks. I had to give up certain relationships, right? So that I can create an environment to succeed, right? And in order to do endurance sports, you have to weigh a certain amount and you have to put a certain amount of power on a bike and swim and run. Well, it was neat and I love the photos to look back on it. And they're some of the most greatest memories I've had. It was just an equation, right? But it started with what I wanted to. And man, I had a burning desire and hunger to do it. And then I found the who that could help me get there.
That's amazing. Where should we go from here, Jordan?
How many bodies of water have you been in across the globe, right?
Well, doing consulting for 15 years and having the good fortune of traveling the world, I've made it a point on all my business trips to find a body of water wherever I am and jump in that body of water. And one that stands out to me is 2015. Our first trip for ConocoPhillips was to the west coast of Norway. And this retreat that we went on with this company and with the leadership was in even north of Stavanger. And my first cold water plunge experience was jumping into the fjord right off of a deck. And I remember that I was standing on the edge of the deck contemplating this, and a little girl, probably 7 years old, came up behind me and said something in Norwegian. And my buddy who speaks Norwegian started laughing. And she walked around me, and then she just dove headfirst into this icy water. No wetsuit, obviously. And my buddy's just laughing. And I said, what did she say? And she said, are you going to stay in there and look at the water, or are you going to jump in? That was the first time I really did kind of an all-in, just kind of plunge in cold water. And it was unbelievably exhilarating. So a lot of bodies of water over the years. It has been life-changing for me. I don't know what it is. Maybe I was born that way, but have always enjoyed being in the water. Part of it, we talked about this earlier, is our mutual love of nature. The outdoors. God created all these things, and it's for us to enjoy. Being in water is one of the ways for me to be the closest to nature that I can possibly be, because I'm actually in nature while I'm in the water. So cold plunging, besides all the incredible health benefits of it, is also just a spirit enriching experience for me.
It's the closest thing you can get to heaven, I think, in my opinion. So first time you jump in, you're in Norway. Little girl essentially double dog dares you to get in. Was that, well, it's the most memorable, what's the prettiest body of water you've jumped into?
It's an off-map body of water called Little Hawaii that's off of the Bear Creek Trail in Telluride, Colorado. You have to kind of find your way there, so it's an adventure.
It's a creek?
It's snowmelt runoff.
Okay.
That's basically a gulch that forms into a waterfall in this spot that's hard to find. But when you find it, you're the only one there, and it's worth it. And I've taken so many people there because I finally know how to get there. And at the base of the waterfall is a deep spot in the water where you can get in and plunge. And it is, depending on the time of year that you go, I usually try to go around my birthday, which is early June, which is the coldest time of year in Colorado to get in water, because you've got the heat enough to melt a lot of the water, and you've got this raging gulch that turns into this 33-degree cold plunge. So that's my favorite. It's beautiful.
Why is it called Little Hawaii?
When you go, you'll see why.
Okay.
It looks like this.
But it's freezing.
In the mountains in Colorado, and it is
In
freezing.
June, it's probably, I don't know, 80 degrees, 75 or something.
Outside?
Yeah.
65. Yeah, 10,000 feet. It's a gorgeous one.
Hey, you've jumped into Lake Erie. I was there for it.
Oh,
The Great Lakes, baby.
Lake Erie was really something. That was cold.
Looks like an ocean.
It does.
Have you swam in all the oceans?
I want to swim at the poles. I've never done a cold water swim
That'd be cool.
at either of the poles. So that would be a goal, unless you count Norway. It's pretty close to the Arctic Circle.
Let's talk about your goals this year.
Yeah.
It's beginning of 2024.
Beginning of 2024.
Pretty early.
A lot of my goals this year center around fjord. I have a mission to introduce more people to cold water, people that don't think they can do it, first timers, or people that have tried it before, maybe when they were younger as an athlete, and then introduce as many people this year to cold plunging. It's going to look like pop-up events. It's going to look like having events here at Fjord headquarters and having people over. and just trying to get as many of these in people's hands as possible to make it accessible for them at home, brainless. Like you said, you just wake up in the morning and you go and get into it. The maintenance is super minimal. It's convenient. It's full of power when you get in the water. And it's a simple, healthy, fully healthy, non-pharmaceutical way
Yeah.
to elevate your life, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. So I love being in our backyard, and there's the fjord right behind the outdoor kitchen, right? And not only do I like to use it every single day, but it's a blast when you have people over, right? And have them experience it for the first time of getting in there, and they a lot of times will scream and jump out after 30 seconds or stand up and be like, "Oh, it's too cold," right? But it is a great opportunity to create memories with family and friends. And now with doing it every single morning, it's almost like it's your first cup of coffee, and you wouldn't go a day without it. So when I do travel and don't have the cold plunge, it's a real bummer because it allows you to get a good start to the day.
I like that you brought that up about how it can help build community, because I think a lot of cold plunge users or people that think about cold plunging think about it as something that you do as an individual experience. And there's nothing wrong with that. People that get in, it's their quiet time. They do it for themselves, but it also can be, I think cold plunging can be social. It's a community building experience as well.
Yeah.
Introducing other people to it is part of the reason why I do this business. It's a passion of mine.
And you got to be committed.
You got to be committed mentally to get in, break through that first barrier of that decision, the decision to get in.
Yeah. And here's the other thing I like about it too, because my brother-in-law got one from you, right? So he comes to my house. We do this swim run race, which where you run and you swim in natural bodies of water. It's a great fun sport that people should look into. And he jumps in the fjord, the cold plunge, and he gets out. And I kid you not, says, "I gotta buy one." Okay. And he didn't have a cup of coffee. He didn't have any sort of drug. He wasn't, using any sort of inhibitor, right, to give him some sort of high or whatever it is, right, to solve anxiety. And all of a sudden he's like, "I feel awesome. I feel great. I need one," right? I'm like, "Okay, well, you can talk to Steven." And he did. He's got one outside that he uses every single day. And it's amazing how it can keep you alert, keep you awake, give you all the energy you need for a day. And it's healthy, right? And it's not anything that you have to get prescribed for. With everything that's going on in today's world, everybody's on medication now, right? And this is water that's really, really cold. So,
Absolutely. I did a video that I posted to my Instagram about a month ago on the health benefits of cold water immersion based off of, clinical studies that were done on this, showing the data and everything for the antidepressive effects that it has. There's some really impressive stuff. If somebody wants to look at it, go back and search about 20 posts down on my Instagram and check it out. And have had multiple people reach out to me who maybe saw that or have read some research to help strictly for the mental health benefits of it. Like you said, with what we're going through right now, everything that you can do without, stuffing yourself with pills. I mean, the trial that they did showed that the people that were on SSRIs that started cold plunging were able to come off SSRIs, and they had a continuous benefit
really?
after treatment, after they finished.
Wow.
For quite some time. So that's really encouraging.
Just need to dunk some people in cold water.
That's right. Can we quickly talk a little bit about your most recent book, Stellar to Stellar?
Yeah. What do you want to know about it,
I
Steve?
want to know, for Stellar to Stellar, I want to know what prompted you to write the book. Who is it for? Let's start there.
Okay. I'll give you two in a nutshell. All right. And it goes back to the what and the who. And that's it in life. I think if people can figure out those two words, figure out what they want, and then who's done it before and connect with them, that's all you need. Period. You're in great shape, Steven. If I want to get in shape, I should talk to Steven, see what he eats, see what he does physically, what's his activity level, and all that good stuff. This book, Seller to Stellar, I've been in sales for the last 20 years, built sales teams. Last couple of years of, I think over the last 10 have done over $200 million in sales. For some people that's impressive. For some people say my company does that in a year, right? There's always going to be people in life that do more or do less, right? So this is perspective. I wrote it with a guy named Carl, who was my professor in college. He's getting close to 80 years old, and he was a fighter jet pilot in the United States Air Force, and then worked for NASA, and then got into sales. And this whole book is about mentorship. So it's this old guy named Brad who owns a successful business, and he's mentoring this who's I say, average Joe. His name's Joe in the book, right? He's just an average Joe. And Joe gets aligned with this guy named Brad, who's already done it, right? So Joe wanted to be better. He just specifically didn't know how much better or how to do it. So Brad gives him a 17-day playbook to achieve that, right? So this book is instrumental, whether you listen to it or you read it on your own, to say 17 days, if you want to get better at any sort of discipline, it gives you the guide to do it. Now, specifically, it's more focused towards folks that are in sales. So if somebody isn't in sales, they can still glean something from it. But
I agree with that.
if somebody doesn't want to grow their business, don't buy the book, right? So, if you're looking to increase sales this year, it's a really good book to give to your sales team.
And as you reflect back on the chapters,
Yep.
what is a principle from the book, if we can just kind of pick one to just talk about for a second for the listeners here, that you think is really instrumental and that people might be able to take with them?
Okay. I'd say there's two. You have a really nice glisten right now with the water reflecting off your face.
There you go.
There's two. One is early on in the book and one is at the very end. So there's a principle called the third brother. And the third brother is essentially these three brothers. They work at the same company and their boss gives them a job. And the first brother, he gets the job done, per se, throws it on his boss's desk. The second brother goes a little bit further with the job that he was given and then puts it on his boss's desk. Then the third brother says, hey, I need a few extra days. And essentially gives his boss this ability to make a decision. And he says, hey, I did all the work. If I were you, here's what I would do. And then he put it in front of his boss. And the third brother is essentially going the extra mile, right? It's slowing down, saying, what are all the steps I need to do here so that the person in front of me can make the best decision? Because in life, all you do, all your superhero is for every one of us is to influence people to make better, wiser decisions. So that's principle one. The second principle that I love in the book is at the very end. And I'd probably say this was Carl's encouragement, but it's making sure your ladder is leaning against the right wall. Whether you get in shape or whether you have an unbelievable relationship or whether you get the house you've always dreamed of or the car you've always wanted or the top line revenue at the business that you've wanted. At the end, life is finite and there's an end to it. And I don't like that about life. In fact, I can't stand it. In fact, water gives life and takes it away. And I think that's the beauty of life, is that there's a beginning and there's an end. And some people watching this are probably at the beginning of chapters, the end of chapters of, their book that they're writing on themselves. But when you get to the end of life, you're going to have to answer something, right? Is this it? Or is there something after it? And Brad's a Christian and he shares the gospel with Joe and says, hey, at the end of life, there's more to making money, right? You're going to be accountable for the life that you lived here on earth. And it's important that you understand what's next. And here's what I believe. I believe that we're all sinners and we've made mistakes. And in his terms, I broke the 10 commandments. And there's this amazing person that came to earth named Jesus Christ that laid his life down for you, right? That's the story that we share at the end with Joe. He has the opportunity to learn more about Jesus, and that's in the book as well.
I think that's so important because we can get lost in trying to keep up in the rat race and achieve whatever goals we think are important. Jesse Itzler is someone I think about who has done a good job of speaking to the life resume instead of your work resume and creating amazing experiences throughout your life that you look back on, at the end of the chapter, at the end of your life, and you've realized, wow, I've lived a good life. I've invested where it matters according to my values and so forth.
I think people can interpret what you just described as, I don't want to say greed, and I don't want to say complacency, and I don't want to say handouts, right? But sometimes you will judge your life based on other people's lives. So if somebody has a lot of money, you'll say, oh, they probably had to steal or cheat or lie for it. And that's not true, right? I have a friend that just bought a Ferrari and it's awesome. There's nothing bad with the Ferrari. Like, I love Ferraris. But when you look at life, right, and if you're doing it for somebody else and you aren't slowing down for the things that are free, right? One story in particular, and this is with you in it, and it allowed me to understand life a little bit differently. But this is a number of years ago. You go on a trip with your dad and you go to Big Sur and you come back and you say, man, it was unbelievable. I'm this cliff on a hot tub watching shooting stars. And that's free. Now, most things in life you have to work for, and I love that, right? If you want to do a race, you got to put in the work if you want to run a marathon, right? If you want to buy a Ferrari, you probably better make some money or have rich parents that you inherited money or something like that. But there's a lot of things in life where you go outside, where we're sitting right now. It's awesome. Blue skies, right? I have a daughter watching this right now that, you know, she, isn't free, but that's human nature, right? Two humans creating other human beings, right? It's amazing.
Yeah.
So there's so many things that you can get caught up in or get jeered around, but at the end of the day, that some of the most impactful things are free.
Great.
I'm sure you remember that trip.
Very special trip with my dad. We'll never forget it. Well, it's been a pleasure. I'm starting to get a shiver on, so maybe we should call it here, brother. What do you think?
That sounds good.
All right, man. Great.
All right, love you.
Love you too.
Congratulations.
Woo! Thank you, Jordan. That was awesome.
I'm gonna get in that hot tub for a minute.